Yo, it's Dave. Yes, I left Cali behind. The Dave Not in Cali Show, one of a kind. Sundays, 5 p.m. Central, truth you can. That's for more real people, real talk. Tune in, we'll explore.
Well, still good morning, almost good afternoon. Today's Sunday, and I thought I would just come on and chat a little about some really crazy stuff that the Democrats do and think. And I don't know if people ever stop and think about the repercussions of some of the things they do. So I figure, well, we'll just talk about it today. Seems I'm not going to be having my 5 o'clock show later today because of work schedules changing. So I just thought I'd come up here real quick and just hang out and talk a little bit about some of the things that's happened because of the what I call the Democratic ideology of how things work. So anyway, let's see. So sometimes Democrats want things to combat things that are going wrong in, like the economy or whatever. And then you stop and you think, well, gosh, isn't this the same reason why we're in this situation? For example, here, let me bring up this list. Here we go. Boom. So here's this list that kind of compiled here. It says increase minimum wage to $20 to $25. They're already working that in California, and then they turn around and the same people say, "Well, why are jobs disappearing and why are prices increasing?" It's like, duh. They kind of have it backwards. They want to increase the wages because prices are so high, but what they don't realize is every time you raise minimum wage, all the like fast food, the places where they use a lot of what I used to call entry level employees, they're getting trained and getting paid rather than it was never designed to be a living wage. And the Democrats want to make minimum wage a living wage, and it's just not the way it originated. So anyway, so you go on down the list here. They want to decriminalize theft under $1,000. Well, California's already doing that, and that's why we have all the smash and grab crimes that happen, in the stores on the West Coast. Well, and I think that it's starting to happen around other places too. It's migrating across the country as the penalties get easier. That's like, hey, what's the worst that can happen? A lot of things that would be considered violent felony crimes are now misdemeanors. So this is part of the same ideology as, well, look, if we lower the penalties, we won't have so many people in jail, so the state doesn't have to pay to house these people, to incarcerate them. It's like backwards thinking. So then what happens? Oh, well, crime increases because the penalties aren't stiff anymore. So it's crazy the way they think. See, and then sanctuary cities and states, why are crimes from illegal aliens increasing? I mean, that's a duh, decriminalizing drugs to a certain degree. There's certain drugs that probably aren't so impactful, but at the same time, they want to know why there's more increase in overdoses and drug related crimes. I mean, come on, people, wake up, think about it. And then defund and eliminate police, and then they want to know why that crime is up in our neighborhoods. If you don't have, if you're not paying the cops to be there and protect you, and the departments don't have the money, it's obvious what's going to happen. But that's what I'm saying. There's backwards thinking. Oh, and of course, they want to stop drilling and refining crude oil when people don't. It's not just gas. They say, "Oh, why are the gas prices increasing?" Um, there's so many products that are derived from petroleum that if we were to stop all oil products, literally everything in society would fall apart. All the plastic parts in cars and gizmos and things that we get, drinking bottles to the frames in your glasses. I mean, there's just almost every industry relies on petroleum products. So that's just a dumb thing to talk about. Now we can slowly work our way out of burning gas. That's true, but that's not the whole thing. That oil and our oil industry supplies us all sorts of things. You would just not believe some of the things. I mean, even fertilizer like urea and stuff is produced from the byproducts of creating, making gas and diesel and stuff like that, and refining processes. And it used to be a secondary product or a byproduct, but now they've discovered that, oh wow, that's it's a fertilizer, and they've been using that for years. But anyway, getting a little off the subject, but kind of want to go back to the top subject. Let me see. So they want to raise wages in California. I mean, they're pushing it really, really hard. So what is the impact? The fast food industry is probably the most impacted one, because they have a lot of people that they hire to cook burgers and make tacos and whatever, the fast food place is your favorite or whatever. But what happens is the companies start saying, well, wait a minute, we can't afford that, and you're going to put us out of business. So they're literally trying to put fast food out of business when you stop and think about it. Because they can't afford to pay these wages, and so they have to find alternatives. So what do? The alternative is to maybe go to automation, like let me see, I got some. So we have companies that are building these automated hamburger manufacturing machines. They literally press the patties, or they can be pre-formed and frozen, and all takes is one worker to just load that and keep the bottles of the ketchup and the tomatoes and the slices of onions, and it's a regular assembly line. I've actually watched a couple of videos on it, and they've got machines that will produce over 360 burgers per hour. Now, McDonald's is rated at the highest, quickest, most producing burger per hour company there is, and they've had a high of 500 and some per hour, in only certain locations, but their average across the United States is 250. That maxes out about 250 burgers an hour. So that's well below what a machine could do. You think, well, geez, the machine's really, really expensive. But if you were to look at a 5-year plan, they could put a machine in there, even with the initial cost and the ongoing maintenance and so forth that it'll take, to keep it up and running and whatever, if it breaks down or whatever. And they could always put 2 machines side by side. So if they do have a breakdown, they're never really broke down. And they have one person maybe handing the food in and out the window. But I see it could get fully automated, where you just punch some buttons of what you want, and it gets it ready, and you pay for it, and it ends up at the window for you. But at the same time, you'd still be cutting the there still be at least one person have to come in and stock the machines and so forth, so the product keeps moving. But that's the way I see it going. And the whole push for turning a entry-level wage into a living wage is the wrong approach. It drives these companies to actually, move forward in the automation industry, and it actually ends up eliminating jobs. And we see it out in California. There's companies that are already just leaving. They can't handle California and all the regulations and so forth. So, it's what it is, and that's kind of what Newsom doesn't seem to figure out when he backs all these things and talks about it, increasing. So we're already at 20. They're pushing for 25 already, and California is already just strapped. I also I read a few things that several of the major chains are planning on thinning out their franchises, and some that aren't doing so well because they're not making a profit. They at the present state it just won't work. So it's going to force them to automate, and if they do, they'll probably automate in California first. So California will end up being the one that takes the brunt. Anyway, guys, that was it. I just wanted to kind of get it out there and talk about it, and then you guys just leave some comments down there and tell me what you think, especially if you're from California and you know what's going on out there. I try to keep up, even though I'm not from there anymore. I mean, I don't live there anymore, but I originally was from there. So anyway, remember to like, share, subscribe, and we'll probably see you next week. Thank you for watching. Bye-bye.